I got news for you, not all creatines are created equal. Not only are there many types of creatine on the market, it's not all just creatine monohydrate, and some of these could have extra benefits for certain consumers. There are also different types of creatine monohydrate out there in that they can vary by price, purity, sourcing, and other really important qualities. This is Nick at BarBend.com. Today I'm going through the best creatine products on the market, and if you want to know which one topped my list, I'll tell you right now. Here it is. Legion Recharge. Not only is it absolutely delicious and a good quality form of creatine, it also has some added l-carnitine, l-tartrate, and some banaba leaf extract, which may confer some extra benefits. If you want to know why, and if you want to see my top picks for other categories, including best creatine monohydrate, best creatine pills, best creatine stack, and more, well, you can Google my full review and read all that out, which has a bunch of runners up and other categories. If you just Google BarBend best creatine, that'll pop right up. You can also stick around. I'm going to go through all those categories here today. First, I'm going to remind you of some potential benefits of creatine that you might not know about. So let's go to Creatine College. After boring old whey protein powder, creatine definitely seems to be the most popular fitness supplement on the market. It is super cheap, it is super effective, and as a means for improving both aesthetics and performance, it's definitely the most research-backed supplement out there. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of positive studies showing really exciting results with creatine. Now, you can get it in beef if you want to consume like 2 pounds of it a day. You can get that daily 5 grams, but you can also get it in powder form for like 4 cents per gram. It's really inexpensive. Now, really quickly, creatine is very well known for making your muscles bigger. It helps to draw more water into the muscles themselves, which a lot of people really like aesthetically speaking. But there's actually really concrete results for performance as well. There are dozens and dozens of studies that have found that creatine has a really positive effect on power output, anywhere from 10 to, in some studies, 25% increase in power output. Really significant results. And there's also some limited evidence that it might help with anaerobic cardiovascular capacity, or it might reduce fatigue. Those are less proven. It's promising, but the bulk of the studies are on increased muscle size, increased power output, which is definitely enough for most people given the price of this product. Creatine even has a little known link with improved cognition, or at least it has a link with improved cognition among people who don't consume much meat. So of course that's vegetarians, that's vegans. It also has implications for the elderly who tend to consume less protein. So there was one interesting study in the British Journal of Nutrition on 128 young women, which found that after about a week of supplementing with creatine, it was vegetarians who experienced better memory and some implications for better reaction time as well. It wasn't the case with those who were already eating meat. So if you don't eat much meat, seems like it's a pretty good idea to supplement with creatine anyway. A lot of people, they like to load their creatine, so they'll have like something like 20, 30, 40 grams of it per day for a week, then they'll slowly taper off. But really, you're gonna be totally fine just taking 5 to 10 grams per day on an ongoing basis. So, which is the best product? So my favorite creatine product, and one that I take every single day, it's gonna be Legion's Recharge. This is a really tasty watermelon flavor and is naturally flavored and sweetened. It's made by Legion Athletics, which is a really legit supplement company. They always cite all their sources for all the claims they make about their products, which I really like. So not only does this have a good 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per serving, it comes with some extra goodies as well. There's some l-carnitine, l-tartrate in here, which some studies have suggested could help to improve muscle repair following exercise, help to reduce muscle damage during exercise. Certain factors like increased oxidation, the kind of stuff you need antioxidants for. L-carnitine, l-tartrate, it might help mediate some of those effects, potentially. There's also a little bit of banaba leaf extract in here as well, which could potentially help to improve some aspects of insulin sensitivity. And when your insulin sensitivity is high, that means you're a bit less likely to gain fat from food. You can have a little bit higher nutrient absorption. You process carbohydrates a little bit better as well. There's a lot of maybes here. These are not the most rock solid of additions. L-carnitine, l-tartrate, banaba leaf extract, definitely not as research-backed as creatine itself. Nonetheless, they do have a good reputation behind them, and they really help to elevate this product above the competition. All right, forget bells, forget whistles. You just want plain, regular creatine monohydrate. So what's the best place to get it? I mean, a lot of people are gonna tell you that all creatine is the same, but I don't think that's quite the case. For my money, the best plain creatine product on the market is Muscle Feast Creatine, and the reason for that is they use Creapure brand creatine. So this is made in a dedicated facility in Germany, in the German Olympic Training Center in Berlin. It's really, really well known for the purity of their product. So a lot of people who really want to invest in the quality and purity of their creatine, they'll make sure they're getting Creapure brand creatine, which Muscle Feast has produced. And in addition to that, it is one of only 4 creatine products that has been approved by the third-party testing website Labdoor, which is really well known because they do a bunch of testing of various different supplements to make sure that the contents actually match what is on the label. They get the purity of like protein powders, other sorts of products, and they very rarely put their name on a creatine, but they did so with Muscle Feast. So those are 2 big reasons why I think this is the best creatine monohydrate product on the market. So let's say you want to go in the other direction. What if you really like bells and whistles? What if you want a bunch of stuff added into your creatine to make it as effective as possible? Well, MuscleTech's CellTech has a lot of hype around it, but there is indeed some evidence to suggest this is an extra effective way of taking your creatine. There's a bunch of extra stuff in here like taurine and L-alanine, but what I find really interesting is that it contains some extra carbohydrates in here. In fact, you're going to get about 38 grams per serving. And there's also some alpha-lipoic acid. And there are indeed some studies to suggest that this trifecta, like creatine, carbohydrates, and alpha-lipoic acid, may help the creatine to absorb more effectively than creatine on its own. Now, there aren't reams and reams of studies, it's just a couple of them. Nonetheless, while there are a lot of products out there that claim their creatine is more effective than anyone else's, CellTech has a pretty good case. Now, if you're going to be taking creatine every day, at some point you're probably going to want to be traveling with it or taking it with you out on the town. For that, a lot of people turn to creatine pills. And when you're looking for the best, in my opinion, I think it's Universal Nutrition's Creatine Chews. The reason for that is that they are chews. They're not actual pills in that you can chew them down. You don't need a source of water with them to consume it, which is a massive advantage against many of its competitors. It's got a few other things going for it as well. Like while it does have 4 grams of sugar per serving, it does not have any artificial sweeteners, which some people are going to be happy about. Also, it's made from Creapure brand creatine, that really high quality German stuff I mentioned earlier. It's vegetarian friendly, and many capsules out there, they're encased in gelatin, so they're not vegetarian friendly. And then finally, Universal Nutrition, they do their own third-party testing, like they get them contracted out for someone to do third-party testing on them, even though it already comes from Creapure, which already does a ton of testing on it. So competitive athletes in particular, they might be pretty happy about that. All right, now let's talk about creatine hydrochloride. Pretty much all the creatine you see out there is creatine monohydrate. There are a bunch of other forms that people have come up with to try and top the effectiveness of creatine monohydrate. Most people will say that monohydrate is fine for everyone, but there are some potential advantages to creatine hydrochloride. This is when it is bound with parts of a hydrochloride molecule. And while the evidence is mixed as to whether or not that results in more or less creatine winding up in the muscles, the big benefit when it comes to hydrochloride is that anecdotally, a lot of people experience stomach cramps on regular creatine monohydrate and they don't on hydrochloride. So that can be really useful for a pretty large segment of the population. When it comes to cost, it's pretty much always more expensive. Creatine HCl, in my opinion, it's a really good balance of quality and price. So normally this is quite a bit more expensive than regular monohydrate. This product here is 35 cents or so per gram, and it typically varies between like 19 and 59 cents. So it's right in the middle of the road. It's pretty tasty, but also a big thing I liked about Caged Muscles CHCl is that they do third-party testing on this as well. So that's an extra level of purity and quality control that again, a lot of athletes might be happy with. So when people ask me about the best creatine supplement for men, I go back to Legion's Recharge. Still a big fan of this product. In addition to the banaba leaf extract, which may help to facilitate fat loss through improved insulin sensitivity, the l-carnitine l-tartrate here does have a pretty nice link with improved cognition and muscular control. In fact, it often winds up on the list of supplements that are most important for men to take over the age of 40 or 50. So in that regard, this can sort of double up as a supplement for men, especially as they get older. So I really like that aspect of this product. Next, I want to address a question that I'm asked a lot, which is what is the best creatine for women? And it is a very complicated and tricky question, which has a bunch of different ideologies and concepts, societal expectations surrounding it. For my money, the best creatine for women is just the best creatine monohydrate. It's Muscle Feast creatine. The reason for that is that, look, generally speaking, and I've got to speak in super broad generalizations here, unfortunately, but in the women's supplementation market that I've been looking at for a while now, usually the copy, the advertising, the marketing surrounds ideas that they don't want women's muscles to get bigger. Now, I would never for a single second ever say that women should avoid getting bigger muscles. It is nonetheless unavoidable that most women's supplements, they do try to minimize any talk about muscle gain and instead increase talk about fat loss and that sort of stuff. Again, this is just like what the advertising tends to say, what the audience tends to respond to. Now, the reason I didn't go with Legion Recharge as the best for women is because it does contain l-carnitine, l-tartrate, which has like some minor minor links to improved muscle gain. And that's generally something that women tend to avoid. So I'm just gonna go with plain, regular creatine monohydrate. This is gonna give you the most bang for your buck, without any extra stuff that might further increase muscle size. Now, when people ask me about the best creatine for bulking, for putting on muscle mass, I first really have to emphasize that's a very complicated process. It relies largely on your calories, macronutrients, sleep, workouts, a bunch of other stuff. However, there is a very good case to be made that creatine HMB from Transparent Labs is the best creatine product for this. The HMB stands for hydroxymethylbutyrate. It is the main metabolite of leucine. Leucine is an amino acid very closely associated with muscle retention. So it's possible, there are indeed some studies to suggest that HMB helps to prevent muscle breakdown. And the one big bonus of combining it with creatine, if you're wondering why should I combine it with creatine, is that some studies have found that HMB and creatine together help to boost strength more effectively than taking either supplement alone. Finally, this is naturally flavored, and the blue raspberry flavor is pretty tasty, so I think this one's a win. All right, so those are all my picks for the best creatine products on the market. But if you want to see the runners up in each of these categories and also my top picks for a few other categories, make sure you Google the full written roundup that I wrote with BarBend Best Creatine.